Electronic Business by Colleen Scott, student of class INSS 300. This is an extra credit assignment for my class. Electronic Business. Electronic business is the act of conducting business on the internet. That includes buying and selling. Hi, I'm Colleen. So, unlike e-commerce, which is really just buying and selling, e-business is actual business practices being conducted online. So not only is it buying and selling, it's also customer interactions as well as exchanges of information. We will briefly discuss 5 different types of business practices. Not only are they electronic business, but they're also day-to-day business practices that we all encounter day to day. So, the first one we're going to talk about is business to consumer. Business to consumer is basically when businesses sell to the consumer. An example of that would be Walmart.com. Walmart.com has a plethora of different things that you can all buy from Walmart.com. An example being I buy my school supplies through there, But the idea behind it is that there's a transaction occurring between me being the consumer purchasing an item from the business being Walmart. That's very important. Another practice is business to business. Now, transactions between businesses usually include manufacturers, wholesalers, suppliers, people, or matter of fact, industries of that nature. So, as a case in point, one example would be how Hasbro, Mattel, and Disney sell different types of toys to McDonald's. Now they sell them to McDonald's for the purpose of having them for the Happy Meal. But this is an example of a transaction between businesses. Another transaction between businesses would be in computers. For example, my computer, when I purchased it, it came with Microsoft Office. I have a Dell. Dell is the way to go, let me just tell you. Anyway, unless you have Mac. But when I purchased my computer, I came with Microsoft Office. Now, Microsoft Office is definitely something that you might want to consider getting. But besides the point, besides that, Microsoft Office sold their product to Dell. And Dell, of course, bought it to make competitiveness in the market better. It actually increases competitive advantage when they made that purchase. So, hats off to that. We also have consumer to business. And what consumer to business is basically the business practices between a consumer selling to a business. An example of an e-business in which a consumer can sell to would be those websites where you can pawn off your gold. And basically what you're doing is you're getting a rate on the type of gold that you have, if it's authentic, how much it's worth, and then you sell it off to a pawn person. I personally don't recommend doing that online, but things happen. People are capable of doing different things. Another example of this would be when a student sells their books to the bookstore, because at the end of the year is the best time to sell your books before a new edition comes out. They tend to run pretty quickly. I would do that as soon as possible. Another example would be if a person sells their car sells their car at a CarMax. That's a very important transaction between a consumer and a business. Hopefully you get your money. You should go to Kelly and check that out. All right. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is consumer to consumer. C to C. That was good, right? All right. So the idea behind consumer to consumer is basically the business practice between a consumer selling to a consumer. It's a very simple idea, actually. But when it's an e-business practice, it's important that you understand that the websites are not consumers. They are businesses. But they're businesses that practice business to consumer or consumer to business in order to help with consumer to consumer. Let me explain that. An example would be Etsy. ETSY.com is a jewelry selling website. And the way it works is you register and you upload pictures, of your jewelry that you make. These are all handcrafted material. And what they do, they offer you a slot, a space in their website for about $15. I'm just throwing a number out there. But you pay for your space, and what I can do as a viewer, which is a consumer, I go on the website and I'm searching through and I like your item. I can buy your item from you. So basically, it's business practices done online, but it's a practice where it's assisted by sites because the websites help make transactions easier. You know, why would you want to go all the way to China just because somebody wants to buy a $5 gift from China when you can just use a website that will actually package the items for you? Pay shipping and handling. Very beneficial. Someone who created this idea, bravo to them. Another example of a website like that would be Craigslist, which a lot of people are a little iffy about Craigslist, but Craigslist also helps practice consumer to consumer business practices. I don't mean to sound so repetitive. Another example would be eBay. Very popular to everyone. Yay, popularity thing. Okay. Now the last thing we're going to talk about is the government. Alright. Business practices done with the government, of course, are a little bit more serious, and they involve a little bit more serious websites. So it's important that, for one, make sure that the website says .gov. If the website does not say .gov, it's 9 out of 10 not a government site. Matter of fact, it's probably 100% not a government site. So be careful because there are very personal information that you'll be giving to these websites. Government to consumer is just that. It's a government selling products or assisting with products with the consumer. An example of that would be processing driver's license. You can go online and renew your license. That is actually a government practice. Another thing would be renewing your passport or processing visa applications, buying a passport, because there's some websites where you can go on there within 2 days to work on getting your passport together. Those would be considered government to consumer practices. Now, consumer to government, on the other hand, is kind of geared more so towards elections. So, for instance, as a consumer, I am assisting the government by voting, Make sure you vote this year. Voting, I'm not going to tell you to vote for, you can vote for whoever you choose, but I recommend that you vote this year. Another thing would be how we pay taxes. Everyone is required to pay their income taxes. Don't forget. Famous people tend to do that. It's not something that I recommend. But consumer to government practices are basically things that we do to help the government and to help ourselves, essentially. Because that's what the government is for, to help us. All right. Another type of government business electronic practice would be government to government practices. Now, when they communicate amongst each other, that would be in examples such as criminal records. If you go to a police station and, for instance, you came from Mexico, government officials in Mexico have the right to hold or supply your information for systems in the state. In addition, Governments in different states have different practices, not necessarily in criminal justice completely, but criminal records that would be here in Maryland tend to be different from those in Connecticut. So if you're in Connecticut and then you come to Maryland, we would have to search two different places to find your information. But government to government practices allow that. All your information can be found at once. Don't do anything crazy. Be a good person. Another and the final example would be government to business practices. Government to business practices mainly focuses on the legal aspects of the business. For instance, if you go into a sole proprietorship or if you go into, what's the other one? Oh, partnership or corporation. All those things involve legal contracts and information that you need to know to make sure that your business runs efficiently. That's what government to business essentially does. They assist in helping businesses do what they need to do because they are the high authority. Now that I have given you a little preview, small preview, about what electronic business practices is, I recommend to start your own electronic business. You enjoy. And if not, you should get on there because it's the 21st century. Not to mention, there is mobile commerce coming. Actually, it's here right now. Smartphones. But mobile commerce is essentially the practices that we can do on our phones, which includes like I can buy a pizza from my iPod. That's pretty amazing. Amazing technology's advancements. You want to make sure that you stay on top of that. So I'm going to end it here. Here are all my sheets. This is electronic business. Goodbye.